Just 24 hours ago, it felt like there was a glimmer of hope, a potential pivot in the Gulf. Well, that hope, it's gone. It just vanished. Today, we're staring down a really dramatic and frankly dangerous escalation. So let's break down what just happened and, more importantly, what it means for all of us. Okay, let's just start with a number. 16. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many Iranian ships the U.S. military just took out, sank, in a single coordinated mission right in the Strait of Hormuz. And look, this isn't just some minor skirmish. This is a big deal. The source material we're looking at calls it, and I'm quoting here, the most direct U.S.-Iran kinetic confrontation of the entire conflict. Basically, this is the most direct fighting we've seen between them, period. It signals we're in a new and way more dangerous phase. So the big question is, how did we get here so fast? Well, this wasn't random. Not at all. This was a calculated move in a super high-stakes standoff. And the immediate impact? It has essentially just slammed the door shut on one of the world's most critical waterways. We're talking about the choke point for a huge chunk of global energy supplies. All right, let's dig into the details. The U.S. says its strike on those 16 Iranian ships was a defensive action. Their goal? To stop Iran from laying mines. But here's the thing. The damage is already done. Iran has come out and confirmed they lost the ships, but they also confirmed that about a dozen mines are already in the water. And we're not talking hypotheticals here. We're already seeing the terrifying results. 2 commercial ships, the one Majesty and the star Gwyneth, have been hit. Now, as you can probably guess, this chaos has sent an absolutely violent shockwave ripping through global markets. That little bit of optimism we saw just yesterday? Yeah, completely wiped out. I mean, just look at the whiplash in the oil market. Yesterday, people were breathing a sigh of relief. We saw a rally, prices dropped. Today, that feels like a lifetime ago. The harsh reality of this escalation has sent oil soaring right back over $90 a barrel. And the impact on actual physical trade? It's staggering. Commercial shipping traffic, the giant container ships and tankers, it's collapsed by 97%. Let me say that again, 97%. For all intents and purposes, the Strait of Hormuz is offline. It's closed. So what are investors doing? They're running for cover. It's a classic flight to safety. You can see gold, the old reliable safe haven, has bounced back really strongly. And what's interesting is that Bitcoin is kind of just holding steady. But the big move, no doubt about it, it's into tangible physical security. Okay, but to really get why this is all blowing up right now, we've got to look inside Iran. Because it seems like there's a really dangerous power vacuum opening up at the very top. And this leads to the most important question of all right now. Who is actually in charge? Who is calling the shots for Iran's military? Because when things escalate this fast, you have to know who's making the decisions. And the answer, frankly, is deeply unsettling. So get this. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, he was injured in some earlier strikes, and he hasn't been seen in public since. So he's out of the picture for now. You have the foreign minister making official statements, rejecting a ceasefire, but the real power, the ones running the military operations on the ground, that seems to be the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And for anyone who doesn't know, these are the regime's most hardline ideological troops, and they're operating with pretty much zero civilian oversight right now. That is an incredibly volatile mix. Okay, so let's bring this all the way back home, right to your wallet, because the fallout from everything happening in the Gulf, it's about to hit us in a major economic report that's coming out today. It's a pretty simple cause and effect, really. The conflict escalated all through last month, through February. And what happened? Energy prices. We're talking gasoline, jet fuel. They spiked big time. Well, today at 2:30 p.m. Central European Time, we're going to see the results of that spike in the official U.S. Consumer Price Index report. And just a quick refresher for anyone who's not an economics nerd, the CPI is basically the main way we measure inflation. It tells us how much the price of everyday stuff is going up. And yeah, because of this whole conflict, you could bet that number is going to come in hot. So here's the magic number everyone is going to be watching, 3.5%. If that core CPI number comes in above 3.5%, expect markets to freak out. It just piles a huge economic problem right on top of an already terrifying geopolitical one. All right, so with all this chaos swirling around, where do we go from here? What happens next? Let's break it down into 3 really critical signals that you need to be watching over the next few days. First up, that CPI number. That's the immediate economic test. Second, keep your eyes peeled for updates from the U.S. Fifth Fleet on minesweeping. Clearing those things out is a slow, dangerous, and nerve-wracking process. And third, and this might be the most important of all, watch for any sign of Iran's supreme leader. His silence right now is creating a massive, and I mean massive, power vacuum. And here's why his reappearance is so crucial. The stakes couldn't be higher. If he finally shows up and gives some hardline speech, you could easily see oil rocket towards $100 a barrel. But if there's any signal, even a hint of being open to negotiation, that could be the pivot, the off-ramp that markets and, let's be honest, the whole world are absolutely desperate for. Which brings us to a final and maybe kind of a strange question. Right now, we are in a perfect storm. War, an oil shock, and now an inflation shock. Investor confidence is shattered, and in moments like this, markets are desperate for any good news, any story about future growth they can cling to. Well, in just 4 days, the tech giant NVIDIA is holding its huge conference. So the question is this. In a world that feels like it's on the brink, could a big story about AI and the future of tech actually be powerful enough to offer the markets some kind of lifeline? It seems crazy, but we're about to find out.